And texting all the boys and like, you know, you're really curious about each other, or you're calling and texting other girls, and like honestly, like sometimes I've received like some nasty text messages from like other girls, like they were mean text messages, you know, or like in middle school. I mean, I know I was not perfect in middle school either. I'm sure
we all did it.
I'm sure I said something mean to somebody, and I'm not even sure. I know I said something mean, and like we all did. We weren't middle schoolers are mean, okay? They always are.
Middle schoolers in high school is extremely hard. I feel honestly, I feel like I blocked a lot of that out. Like I really don't remember middle school or elementary, just because the bullying was so bad. Oh my goodness.
Kids are mean, but they're great
too. But yes, kids are mean, but they're great too. But I think it all, speaking of sleepovers.
Yes.
I don't think I'll let my daughter like sleep over at just like anybody's house. Like did you like, cause growing up, my mom let me sleep over anywhere. And I remember I'd be like, I'm sleeping over here. But then I would be out all night long, like running the streets and like, I don't think, you can like, I'll have sleepovers at our house, or like if it's family, like, obviously they can go sleep over there. But with friends, like, I don't think I'll allow my kids to sleep over at any.
I think it's just whatever house. Your preference is.
Right.
My parents growing up, I had a lot of sleepovers at other people's houses.
Really? Yeah.
But then again, like I had 3 other sisters, and so like there wasn't like, we all had our own bedrooms at one point, but like there wasn't like a collective space that we could hang out that wasn't just our bedroom, if that makes sense. Like the living room was like where everyone in my family hung out. So it was just like if I wanted to be alone with friends, or like, because you don't want to like hang out with your parents, or like have to share cool. like TV with like your siblings or whatever. But my parents always had a rule that like they had to at least like have met these parents. Yeah. And sometimes it was like just in that exchange or whatever. But my parents were also always very, which like I think shocked a lot of people, but they would always pick me up pretty early in the morning. Like, you're not going to overstay your welcome. You're going to come home. You're going to be with us. Like, and like, if you're crabby, like you're obviously going to need a nap sometime today, or like you're going to need to like have alone time today. So they wouldn't like drop me off at like 6 p.m. the night before and pick me up at like 1. Like that was never a thing. No, I was always one of the first people to leave a sleepover.
Right away in the morning.
It was anywhere between like 8 and like 10 was the very latest. Yeah,
I like that because too, like, when you're having sleepovers, you got to think too about like your friends' parents. They probably don't want y'all staying. I mean, it depends on your household. But like, I remember with my mom, like when I would have sleepovers at my house, she's like, they got to leave early in the morning. Like that's just how it was. But with Aaliyah and Raiden, I don't know about sleepovers. That shit just scares me because the amount of trouble I got in as a kid. Nope. But yeah, anyway, hi guys. Welcome to the Girl Chat podcast with Mona and
Claire.
Oh, my bad. Did I just touch your face? Claire. We're excited to be back. We are on our relationship series. We have 3 more to do, and then we're done. So, hey, after the relationship series, what topics would you guys like to hear from us? What type of guest would you like on? Because I think after this, we're going to be having some guests.
Yes.
And getting amazing women from our community to come on and join us. So, hey, if you have any suggestions, let us know.
Yes.
But today we have Claire, actually, if you want to kind of explain what these cards are.
I think a lot of people kind of know the concept of we're not really strangers in their brand, but I was given these by my good friend Maddie for my birthday, and they're the self-love edition deck. And so there's prompted questions, we answer them, or you can journal about them, or, I think like this is a good way to build intimacy within friendships and relationships. For me personally, I love to talk. But so I thought these were pretty cool, and I figured we could maybe start and end with them. For these next few episodes.
I love that. I love that idea. All right. So the first question I'm going to ask Claire. What boundary would benefit me the most to set with myself? Why haven't I set it Wait, we were supposed to do this one last. Wait, okay, mix up. We're actually going to start with this card first. Okay. What's a flaw I've learned to appreciate about myself over time? You can go first, I'll go second. So, she's like, I got to think about that.
There's a couple.
Yeah.
I want to say accepting the flaws that my body has, but I think that there's like,
that's good.
That's open for interpretation too, right? Because some people might look at my body and think it's perfect.
Yeah,
but some people might not either.
Yeah, I think you have a nice body.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do love and appreciate my body, but I think like if you would have asked me a year ago if I were to like stand naked in front of a mirror and like point out things that I would have liked about my body, I probably wouldn't have said much.
Wow.
And so I think like now I can look at my body and like appreciate like, yeah, there's quote unquote flaws, right? Stretch marks. But women, you know, we grow in our 20s and we fill out in our 20s, and I've always been a little curvier.
Yeah.
And you know,
there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right. And like another flaw of mine is that I have really thin and fine hair, so like it doesn't allow for me to grow. Like it doesn't grow fast and it doesn't grow thick, and so I feel like it just wouldn't look good. And so like that's something where like I see your beautiful curls and I'm just like, oh, I'm envious, but it's also like, but I can rock a short haircut, and it's like part of me and my personality and my look and my style. And so like not really a flaw, but you know,
you accept your flaws, which is dope.
Right. One of my other flaws is that I'm incredibly impatient. And I'm really working on it. I'm really working on it. And I do think that I've gotten a lot more patience over the years. Yeah. But you're so funny. Apparently not. But yeah, I would say those are probably some big flaws of mine that I've learned to accept, and I'm still working.
You're just passionate. Maybe instead of feeling impatient, maybe you're just so passionate about things that you just want it to ready. You're just ready to let that out, okay? Whatever it is. So I like that though. Thank you for being open, because I know it can be hard to like point out your flaws and be like,
right.
But I would say one of my biggest flaws that I've really learned to appreciate would definitely be being overly sensitive. I'm a person that feels everything and very oversensitive when it just comes to people, when it comes to energies, or even certain situations. And I always used to look at that as my weakness. And it would really mess me up in my emotions. And so like really realizing that like, hey, like it's okay that I'm sensitive, and it's okay that I express that in a healthy way. Because there has been times where I do it in a very unhealthy way, where it's like just overboard of emotions. And so, I would think that could be a flaw that I feel like I am finally starting to appreciate now. But I think that's like my biggest one. I'm trying to think of other ones.
I think it's great that you're so sensitive. I do, because it's, I mean, again, it's like it shows that you care.
Yeah.
And I hate when people are like, you're so sensitive. Yeah, I have feelings. Okay.
Right?
And I got lots of them.
I'm not a psychopath. I have feelings and I feel them deeply.
Right. And it's just all about how you navigate those feelings and how you respond. I think about that all the time. Like a lot of times when things are out of my control, it's like, okay, all that I can control is how I respond to them, you know?
Yeah. I really like that a lot. I like that a lot. And I think that's one thing, for example, like kind of switching the gears to like boundaries. Cause I think that's another flaw that I've had to overcome is, not setting boundaries with people. And even in my romantic relationship, not setting boundaries with, because I was afraid of losing people or sometimes I feel like a lot of the times people look at boundaries as like, oh, you're being a bitch or you're too much. Or, but in reality,
or like why you gotta be so serious?
Yeah, but in reality, it's like, no, it's like I like you as a person. So I'm setting these boundaries because I don't want to resent you.
Right.
Or I don't want on, like just bad feelings towards you. So I'm going to speak my mind and let you know, hey, this is not what I like. You know what I mean? And if that person likes you enough, they'll understand.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I agree with that. Do you know who Brene Brown is?
No.
Oh my gosh, you would love her.
Okay.
So she's amazing. She's Brene Brown. I love you. She's amazing. But I was just listening to like one of her She does like a lot of TED Talks. She studies like compassion and fear for a living and goes out and like talks about it. She's amazing. Yeah. Like literally we're going to sit down over a glass of wine and watch some Brene Brown.
No, please. I would love that. We still haven't had our wine date. Anyway,
I know. But she had said something about how like boundaries, you have to ask and you have to be specific. And I was like, oh yeah. So there's like no interpretation for like that little space of error, essentially, you know? And so I was like, okay, so that like it requires you to be super intentional about the boundary that you're setting and asking for. And then it allows for there to be an afterthought. So there's no gray area, which is what I really appreciate of that.
That can be hard in itself too, I think. Like, have you ever had to like deal with that when it comes to like a partnership of like being intimately involved with someone and like having to set a boundary, but maybe you set that boundary but you weren't clear enough, so they kept doing it? Like, is that your fault at the end of the day, or is it their fault, or both?
I think it's a miscommunication, probably. Yeah. I think that like, and truly if like an accident happens or like there's a misunderstanding, then I don't think that's anyone's fault. It's just a conversation of, obviously we weren't on the same page, let's get on it. You know, like, I don't know, like communication's so hard. It's so hard, and it seems like it's a no-brainer, right? Setting boundaries seem like a no-brainer, but it's it's hard.
One of the hardest things to do.
It's all about accepting how another person operates too. You know, like you and I operate very differently. You and Tyler obviously have a sense of cohesiveness to you as a married couple living in the same household, but you guys operate differently.
We're two separate humans.
Exactly. So it's just about like figuring out how it matches.
I think too, when it comes to boundaries, how emotionally mature are you to accept that? Because like, speaking from experience, there has been so many times where I was so emotionally immature, where I couldn't handle boundaries when it comes to being in a romantic relationship, because to me it felt like, wow, like you don't like me, like that's how it felt. And so I think that too, like setting boundaries within your relationships really tests your emotional intelligence. And I think it's okay too that if you are a little bit immature in you know, in being
there's always space for growth.
Exactly.
We say this all the time. And so especially when you're starting a new relationship with somebody, which I am. I'm starting a new relationship with somebody, and he and I have already talked a little bit about boundaries and stuff. And one of the things that we had said was that we wanted each other to be interested and invested in different aspects of each other's lives. So our jobs, what we volunteer in, you know, our personal friendships and relationships, right? Like I want my partner to know who Mona Lisa is. I want him to support our podcast. I want him to obviously meet you at some point and be able, oh wait, you guys already did meet.
But that was like,
that was so funny.
that was so
very
funny. Random.
Mona saw him and just was like, oh my God, I know you. It was so funny. You guys walk away and he was just like, I think they're having a good night.
You're like,
yes, they are. But you know, like I want you guys to be able to sit down, like all of us to sit down and like have dinner or whatever, or coffee, and hang out. And like, I want him to be interested and invested. I don't want him to be as involved in the things that I do or in the relationships that I have, because that keeps us separate.
I really love that. And I love how you guys have already talked about boundaries, because that's another thing too. Like, I feel like a lot of people are not taught to talk about these type of conversations when they are first getting into a relationship. And then it's kind of not like set up for failure, but then it's just a lot of like room for like obstacles and mistakes, because like you guys have never like had a conversation of like, this is what I like, this is not what I like, you know, and really like seeing if you guys are like meant to be together. And so like, that's one thing too, like it's crazy. Little story. So my friend came from town this weekend, and she was here, and we were kind of just talking about just life and stuff, and like her passions in life. And one thing she brought up, she was like, what I've noticed within my family is we were never taught how to properly date. And I'm like, that is so true. And she was just talking a little bit. I don't want to get too in detail to like spill out her business, but she was just pretty much talking about like, it's like a generational curse in a sense, because it's like all of her cousins and her have like gone into these relationships not knowing how to date people. And then it's just it's a messed up relationship in a situation because you're not upfront and open about what you want, who you are, what things you like and stuff. And so like that's one thing I was like, wow, like I want to teach Aaliyah that, you know?
No, I think that's so great. Yeah. And you should teach Raiden that too.
Oh,
you know?
Why do I?
You have 2 children.
Like, you have 2. Yeah, you're right.
No, but it is important. And I think it's important too because I look at my parents, for an example, and they have a really healthy, beautiful marriage. And I love and appreciate them for that. I'm really happy that I grew up in a really affectionate home. Like, it wasn't weird for me to see my parents, like, kiss or hug or anything. Like, that's just kind of, and you know me, I'm so affectionate physically, too. Like, I hug all of you guys, you know, and so that's just kind of how it is. But it's also, like, okay for me to acknowledge that, like, the way that my family operates and even the way that my parents operate within a relationship might not be the way that I operate in a relationship or how my partner operates in a relationship. And so, you know, just like figuring out different dynamics, and different dynamics can be healthy. There's so many forms of different healthy relationships.
So honestly, since we're getting into this, I want to talk about like red flags, right? Like when it comes to relationships and boundaries, because there's some times where it's like, I feel like a lot of relationships, people could be so blinded by their like love for that other person that they just allow them to overstep boundaries, and they probably have expressed like, hey, I don't like when you do this, and they still do it, and it's like they don't get out of that relationship. Like for example, like I want to hear like what would be your advice to someone going through that and not respecting, you know, boundaries?
Not respecting boundaries. I'm like trying to think of an example right now. Yeah. But I would just like reiterate, like, these are my boundaries, and like I understand that like you operate differently, but this is how I'm gonna feel safe, confident, and comfortable moving forward. So and like I need you to literally like boy bye, and not always, but you know, like obviously giving people grace. People make mistakes from time to time. People might have to unlearn something that's normal to them or whatever, and so they might have to, you know, back up and like reteach themselves. Because you know, like my family, for example, very affectionate. I hug everyone. That's like how I greet most of my friends. A lot of times when I'm meeting somebody for the first time and they're a mutual friend of like me and somebody else, we're like, oh, what are we doing? Like, and then we just hug or whatever. But like, you know, the gentleman I'm currently dating, his family's not as affectionate.
Oh, really?
And so like, I literally asked him like, you know, when I meet your parents, like, what do I do for the first time? And he was like, I literally was just like, he goes, well, you can forget hugs. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And you know, some people just aren't comfortable with that, or, you know, I'm a stranger. And I was just like, should I shake their hand? Should I do a curtsy? Should I bow? You know, and I was just laughing. He was like, you can just wave and like say nice to meet you and stuff, which, you know, makes sense too. But you know, like if I were to go in and just like grab them, like that's obviously, you just told me a boundary, you know,
and you
like,
cross that.
Don't cross that boundary. Like let them come to you type of thing, because I operate differently than them, and that's fine. That's totally fine.
I love that. That's one thing I love about you. You respect boundaries. Like I actually complimented you like the other day. Remember when we were talking? I was like, I just want you to know, like, thank you for respecting, you know. Of course. Like, that's a good human right there. Like, I mean, even if you have trouble respecting boundaries, I'm not saying you're not a good human. Don't think that, guys.
But it just takes time.
It takes work, because I was that person. It was hard for me to respect boundaries and also give boundaries, because I never had that growing up, ever. I didn't have guidance.
But it's also one of those things, too, where, like, with boundaries, especially when you're starting a new relationship or you're evolving your relationship, like, you have to be an advocate for yourself, because how would anyone know? How would anyone know that you're crossing a boundary or that you're making them upset if you don't tell them?
It all comes down to loving yourself and knowing your worth. Like, once, like, that really is like,
even in like a workplace, like, please don't comment about this. Or, you know, in a friendship, like, you know, what is spoken between you and I is different than what's spoken between you, Tyler, and I. You know, like we literally just discussed this. And
I'm sorry, I had to laugh.
That's okay. That's okay. We don't have to get into the details of what I said, but you know, that's a boundary. And I said, and I literally said to you, I was like, okay, I'm sorry, thank you. And like, I know that you guys don't have any ill feelings towards what I had said. No. But yeah, you're right. That is a Mona and Claire conversation.
Yeah, like that's a girl conversation between us. You can't let nobody in.
It's a private girl chat conversation.
Period. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, I just, I don't know. I get really interested in the topic of just boundaries in relationships and communication. It's like, too, like, going back to like communicating, like you said, it can be so hard to communicate when it's the easiest thing, like in a relationship.
It should be a no-brainer.
And I've done a lot of like research on like relationships and stuff, and they say that's like one of the number one problems is like communication, because once you think about it, like as humans, we might get in our ego or our pride and we're like, they should already know that that they can't do this with me, or they should already know that I don't like going out to eat at X, Y, and Z. But in reality, like, just communicate. You know, I think it makes a lot of. Makes it easier. Life.
Communication's gonna allow for there to be healthy communication is going to allow for there to be healthy arguments, healthy disagreements. And healthy confrontation. I think a lot of people get scared of confrontation because they automatically think of it as like a negative situation.
That was me for the longest, and I'm now just opening up.
Yeah, and confrontation with different people is more difficult for me.
Yeah.
You know, there's confrontation where I feel like I have to really navigate it well, or a little more, I don't know, I have to be a little more sensitive with certain people, but then there's other people where like I can just, my friend JC and I hardly ever argue. And the way that we've established arguing is just in the moment being like, you upset me and moving forward and being like, you upset me, being kinder, let's move forward. And like, I think we've had that conversation 2 or 3 times over the last however many years we've been friends. So, you know, but that allows for us to, you know, have the confrontation of like, I'm upset and this is why you made me upset. And then moving on from there.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Like kind of, that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, just confrontation is just a conversation that is a little bit uncomfortable, but hey, at the end of it, it helps everyone to know like, okay, this is what you like. This is not what you like. Like going back now, like to like, I feel like when you're, for instance, like me and Tyler, we've been with each other for 5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
And so like once you're with someone for so long, like getting comfortable, getting too comfortable with the other person can sometimes lead to overstepping boundaries too. Like for example, I'm gonna be completely vulnerable right here, but like this is a silly one, but like there was a moment in our marriage, in our relationship, where I got too comfortable and I just like started like farting around him and stuff. And I realized that like, wait, I still have to be like sexy. You know what I mean? Like that turned him off. And he would tell me like, oh babe, stop. But I would be like, I don't care. And I would still do it. And then I eventually realized like, wait, like he's actually letting me know in a nice way, like, don't do that around me. Like there has to be a little bit of mystery still and sexiness in our relationship. And that turns men off. Like, or even pooping, like I don't poop in front of him, he doesn't poop in front of me, like that's like, so you know, like even little boundaries like that, it doesn't have to be serious big, you know.
We're a little different in that. I think like at some point, like
you can I
mean farting is it's a bodily function, right? It's gonna happen, and I know you I mean, I'm pretty sure people fart like 8 times in their sleep. So you and Tyler definitely fart around each other every night. But like, you know, I'm a little different with that. Like at some point it's like, I'm going to allow myself to fart. It's so funny. Okay. Farting is so funny. And it's like, it's so embarrassing, and for what?
Yeah.
But no, like, don't come and fart on me. Like, I'm not like, what are we, 8-year-old boys? Like, no.
No, that's the shit I used to do with Tyler.
I love that. And like, you know, time and place, right? But like bathrooms. I grew up sharing a bathroom almost all the time, which is totally fine, you know, but I am like now, this is the first place I've ever lived where I have my own bathroom, like truly to myself. And I realized I really enjoy my private bathroom time, like getting ready, peeing and pooping in the shower, whatever. Like time. It's just like, it's really nice. So like moving forward, like when and if my partner continue to hang out more and more and we're sharing bathroom and stuff, like I'm going to prioritize like I get ready alone in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And like, it's fine if like the door's open or you need to come in for something, but like you don't need to be in there
while
I'm getting ready.
Yeah. And I like that. You know, that's you time, put on a little bit of music, dance. Do you do that? Like when you're getting ready, do you like dance?
Sometimes.
I love dance.
Sometimes. Other times I'm like,
oh wait, you're like, I need to hurry up because I'm Russian.
Russian.
No, another thing too, I would say is like, for example, I'm an extremely oversensitive person, and Tyler, he has dry humor. Like and sometimes that can like lead to some issues because it's like I have to remind myself, like, is this something that I actually don't find funny when he's just like playing, and because that's his way of flirting too sometimes. It's like playing and teasing with me, or can I laugh with this? And like so that in itself too, it's like that can sometimes be an internal struggle for me too, because I'll be in my head like, this dude really playing with me like this, but then I'm like, I have to realize like this is who he is. This is like, so it's like there's compromises in that as well when you're in a marriage, I feel like too. So it's like, you know, there are some times where I'm like, you went a little too far, bro. Like simmer it down. But then in my head too, sometimes I'm like, just laugh with it, like, because that's his love language too, in a sense. You know, playing around and teasing.
Like everything isn't so serious.
Yes.
And a lot of times too, it's like it's not coming at me.
Yeah.
The other night when my new boo thing and I were talking kind of about boundaries and stuff, I remember at one point one of his biggest love languages is physical touch.
I love
that.
that.
Like, you know, like we cuddle and we hold hands and like whatever. We're just close to each other, but we're like discussing these boundaries. And I'm a big words of affirmation person. And I'm like telling him how I feel and all these things and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I felt like we were like talking about boundaries and all these things. And he like wasn't touching me at all. And I was like, oh my goodness. Did I just blow this? I was like, I blew this. And there's like a part of me that was like a little angry. I was like, fine, well, screw you. Like, I apparently blew this. But then I was just like, that's not actually how he feels. And I know that. But like, he's not articulating how he feels, and he's not physically showing me how I feel or how he feels. And the next day we talked about it a little bit, and he was like, I'm so sorry. And he was just like, I was just really processing everything. And I was like, okay, well, this is like good to know. Like, this is kind of a boundary that you need to have. Like when we're having these conversations about that are deeper, like you can't have me on you or around you. You really want to process these things. And so like just meeting him where he's at in a sense. And like yesterday, we were sitting outside of a brewery, and you know, I just looked at him and I was just like, you're so handsome. Like, you're so handsome. And I think about it all the time. And he was just like, I need to be a lot better about articulating how I feel about you. And he was like, your eyes are beautiful. Aww. I catch myself looking at them all the time, you know. And he was just like, you know, just meeting each other where we're at and where the other one's at. And, you know, not all the time, and understanding that like there's boundaries, we operate differently. There's different needs and wants that we both need, but kind of compromising and meeting in the middle from time to time.
That's what you got to do in relationships. Is you got to compromise. You got to meet in the middle. And two, like if y'all really love each other, like you guys will make it work. You know, and you'll figure it out. And again, it all comes down to like just growing with each other, because again, we're not perfect, and there's a lot of mistakes that I've made in my marriage, and same with Tyler. But the thing is we always come back to friendship and growing together and that communication part. And I think that's what, I think that's the beautiful thing about it, you know?
I think sometimes too, you outgrow boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
you outgrow boundaries, and so you just need to reset them.
Yeah.
Or you need to redefine them, maybe.
Yeah, because we're not the same person. Even next month, I might think, you know.
Yeah, no, we're always evolving.
Yeah.
Do we want to do this?
Yeah, let's do the last card, and then
Thanks for being with us today. We
yes.
Juice Stop.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Speaking of that. Juice Stop. We love your coach's, what is it called?
Coach's Choice.
Coach's Choice.
Tasty. Okay, Mona, what boundary would most benefit me to set with myself?
Okay, let me read that because, what boundary would most benefit me? Gosh, this one's a hard one, and I have not thought about this.
I think for me, it's just always, you know, I give a lot of my time to a lot of people. I need to say no more. Yeah. And I have gotten a lot better at that. Yeah. And I think that there are definitely spaces that I feel I want to indulge in more. But I need to start saying no more. Yeah. And I need to say, like, you know, sometimes I like realize I have a 3-hour chunk of the day and I'm like, wait, no, it's for me. I need to do that. I need to do that more.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that with you, because your hands are in everything. And that's why, you know, that's why too, I make sure when I want you involved in something, I'm like, I asked you like 20 times because I was like, you can tell me no. Like, let me know. Right. But I know you will. But anyway, okay. For me, what boundary would I set with myself? Oh, I would definitely say for myself is to stop like over analyzing everything all the time. And that comes with me being sensitive. I always overanalyze like situations and people, and I think sometimes that can create a very toxic perspective that I have on to others, when in reality, like, maybe I'm just really I'm a very overanalyzer to myself, so I do that with everything. So yeah, I would say that. But hey, guys, I'm gonna go turn back on the camera real quick because 1 second. Hi. What would you give like, oh, I don't know.
I'm talking. I think that's a good one for you. I think that one that you and I, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but I think you and I are pretty confident women, and we express that. But I think that when we are having a hard time, or we are, are feeling a little low on our confidence, our self-talk is really mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I think we like hold ourselves to the standard, and we're like, oh yeah, like, I'm a boss ass bitch, or, like, I feel good and confident in my relationships and my friendships and all these things. But I think that, like, when we're low, we're like, oh man, I'm the biggest piece of shit.
That is so true. And then it goes in a downward spiral, girl.
Right.
Like, and then it just gets so bad. Oh gosh.
Each other, and we're like crying, and the other one's like, what? Hold on.
I know, for real. Because like, low key, it might not be that serious, but in the moment, it's so serious. Yeah. Like, girl, I was actually going to call you this morning and like whine to you, but then I literally stopped myself. I was like, no, I'll handle it myself. Growth right there. I was like, I don't need to put Claire in the middle of something that.
No, that's okay. It's all good, and we know that we can pick up the phone and call each other. But yeah, I think like, it's easier said than done because I'm guilty of it. I'm so guilty of it, but just, I need to be a little nicer on my bad days. Yeah. Nicer to myself on my bad days.
I just think both of us can agree that we're both very passionate people, and that can sometimes create chaos in your head, to be quite honest. Yes. When a person is extremely passionate, like, it kind of comes off as being like really dramatic, but like, no, we're just passionate. Hopefully you guys can relate. But thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Girl Chat podcast with me
and Claire.
And we're super excited to do these podcasts for you guys. And hopefully you guys learned something today. But ask yourself, what is a boundary that I want to set with myself and I want to set with others that would help you guys grow together and have a healthy relationship? For real, ask yourself that today, and set those boundaries with the people that you love. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And they will respect that, respect that from you. So
it's going to create a more sustainable relationship.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next one.
Peace and love.
Bye.
Yay.